Hello my loyal companions, welcome back to the channel and to another episode of Rogue Revealed, the series where I take you through everything you need to know about Rogue Company. In this video I wanted to go over all the different passives that the rogues have within the game and kind of give you an idea of what they do, some unique features about them, and also rank them from what I think are the most useful to the least useful. If you do go on to enjoy the video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel, but for now, let's get into it. I'm going to be explaining them in order of least useful to most useful. So kicking us off with what I think is the most useless passive in the game is Shack. Shack's passive is called Grit, and while down gives you increased health and allows you to use the dodge roll ability. There are two reasons I think that this isn't very useful. The first being that the dodge roll mechanic itself isn't super good. Yes, you can sort of get around a corner or get away from a position, and that's sometimes okay. But more often than not, you're not in a position to roll out of cover or into cover and you'll get downed. It can work on occasions, but I think out of the games I play with Shack, I probably find a use for it 3% of the time. The other reason Shack's passive isn't very good is because it doesn't work. His increased health stat actually doesn't do anything. I've done a lot of testing on this. You do not get more increased health. You go down with 100 health, the same as every other rogue. You have the exact same bleed out time. And I tested it while throwing a grenade. If you have a grenade hit you that does 100 damage when you go down, you die instantly, meaning you don't actually have some additional health that isn't just counted for in the numbers. You just have 100 health, same as everybody else. So this doesn't work, and I'm going to be contacting Hi-Rez about it just to make them aware of it. And hopefully they'll change it. If they do change it, I think he would go up in this tier list a little bit, but only by a few places. Again, it's not super useful. Being down for longer isn't a fantastic thing, and be able to move while down isn't amazing. The next passive is going to be Phantoms, which is called Grievous Wounds. When damaging an enemy, it delays their health regen for an additional portion than it normally does. For all other rogues, when they hit an enemy, it takes 5 seconds for being out of combat for that enemy's health to start regenning again, but when Phantom hits an enemy, it takes 7 seconds. This additional time can be good if you were to get a shot off on someone and allowing your team to flank while they're still low health. It isn't something that you notice being used a lot and doesn't in the background do too much more for you. Realistically, when you're playing Phantom, if you've hit a body shot, you'll switch to your pistol and maybe finish them off that way. They're not going to regen health anyway, or you'll get a headshot and the passive is essentially useless. I think it's a cool mechanic, but compared to the other passives on this list, it just doesn't stack up as well. The next passive is going to be Trenches, which is called Gadget Up and allows you to hold an additional gadget. This means that if you were to say purchase his tear gas, you would get 2 tear gas, and if you were to purchase his active protection unit, you get 2 of them. This is actually really cool. I like it on Trench. I think it's really useful and fits his playstyle, but as a general mechanic and a general passive compared to the other ones in the game, it doesn't enable him to do much. It just helps with his utility, which, trust me, is great in the game. Utility, I think, is key and really underrated, but realistically, it's not the most useful passive in the world. It's just kind of a quality of life change. Moving on to Demon's passive called Burned. This means that when you down an enemy, you reveal them to your entire team so that they can see where they've been downed. This is actually quite a good mechanic. It can help when it comes to thirsting enemies and letting your team know, here's an enemy, I've downed them. Be careful because the enemy team might try and rotate to res them, or a Saint might get a drone on them. So if you can help finish this kill, go for it. And it is, again, just useful information, but more of a quality of life. It doesn't actually enable demons to do anything different or really help the team in a lot of ways. They're downed anyway. It's not like they're then going to start murdering them. The biggest counter it kind of is to Shack, whose ability obviously lets himself revive. Knowing where he is at all times, even if he dodge rolls away, can be really good. And so Demon's a mini kind of counter in that sense, but again, it's not super impactful. Now moving on to Glitch's passive called Intuition, which allows him to detect nearby enemy equipment, even through walls. So they pop up kind of red outlined like a ballistic knife or a trench barbed wire or an anvil barricade, just so you can sort of see where they are and potentially get an idea of the positioning of the enemies. Whilst I think this is actually really good on paper and enables Glitch to do what he's meant to do really well, I don't actually think in practice it works super well. It's kind of hard to see the stuff through the walls and the range of it isn't very good. It's just a bit underwhelming, and realistically good Glitch players are using their main ability to see things around them anyway, and that's way more effective, so you may as well use that. The passive isn't actually super useful. The next passive on the list is Scorch's Fireproof, which makes her immune to fire. This is very specifically good for Scorch because she obviously throws Molotovs, she can walk through them. Her ability burns people, she can sort of be immune to that and things, and is actually a really good counter to another Scorch if there's one on the enemy team. But except for those very rare circumstances and allowing you to do some cool maneuvers by throwing a Molotov to cordon off an area and then move through it yourself, there's not a lot of use for this. It's just kind of, again, a nice quality of life, fits her playstyle well, but in the grand scheme of utility of passives, it doesn't really stack up. Now we're going to start moving on to the passives that I think start to become a bit more useful and a bit better upon this list. And that's going to kick off with Vi's passive, Leeching Poison. This allows Vi to, when she reduces the maximum health of an enemy, it increases her maximum health up to a cap of 25. For Vi, this basically means that when you throw down your poison pool and they step in it and start losing health, you gain 25 health, which essentially is, if you play it right, every round you get free armor. Obviously, you have to use this in conjunction with her main ability, which, by the way, I'm going to be going over in tomorrow's video. So if you are looking at all the different abilities and want to know what they do, that will be covered in tomorrow's video. But generally, I think that this mechanic, if you're a good Vi and you can use it well, is actually really good. Getting free armor at the start of every round for just throwing your ability down in a good position and also reducing the maximum health of them is fantastic. And I definitely think it's a highly rated passive in my opinion. The next passive that I think is actually really good and people don't normally notice it is Anvil's called Immunity. This means you're not affected by EMP, disorient, slows, or blind effects. So flash grenades, EMPs don't work. Gas grenades don't cause a fuzzy sort of screen and disorientating screen like that. And also, and I don't think a lot of people know this, the anti-slow allows you to walk through an enemy trench's barbed wire without any problems. I had to do some testing on this just to make sure, but yes, you do not get slowed down by a trench, and therefore is actually a slight counter to him. I do think this is actually really good and fits Anvil's playstyle well. It allows him to be this big front line, and when you do get breached or flashed or anything, you're there to stand there and be able to defend your teammates, which is exactly what Anvil's meant to do. The next passive I want to talk about is Ronin's, which is called Underground. This means that she can't be detected on the enemy's radar. Now this I think is really, really good. It's sort of like a ghost perk if you play Call of Duty, your counter UAVs. Normally when an enemy shoots, they pop up as a red dot on the map. When they're seen, they pop up as a red dot on the map. Or if they get caught by something like Talon Dart, they'll pop up in the map around there. Anything where you see a red dot on that top left corner map, Ronin is immune to it. She cannot be detected on those different methods, which makes her really quite a good flanker, really sneaky and quite distracting for enemies, because although they know they're around and you know your team is fighting her, you don't know exactly where, what direction. And I find this quite useful. It definitely fits my playstyle quite a lot, and I do enjoy it on Ronin. And I don't think people take advantage of it as much. I think Talons forget it and they get snuck up on quite a lot because they think they've got an angle covered with their dart, but then Ronin just slips by using her passive. Dallas's passive is next called Recharge, and what this does is that when you down an enemy, your ability recharges. Obviously, this only works for Dallas and his ability, but generally as a general mechanic, if it were to work on other people as well, I think is really good. Obviously, your ability is what makes your rogue, and having that up as many times as possible and rewarding yourself for getting a kill, or a down at least, is really, really useful and really, really rewarding for you. There's not really too much to say about this one. It's just a really good passive, and particularly for Dallas' playstyle, suits him really well. Now going into my top 3 passives, we're going to start with Saint's called Medical Expertise. This means that when you revive a teammate, both of you heal for an additional amount than you normally would. So to put that in perspective, normally when you get revived by a teammate, you come back with 30 health and they don't get any additional healing from it. However, when you revive a teammate with Saint, what happens is they come back with an additional 50 health, taking them to 80 health in total, allowing them to get back in the fight straight away. And it also heals Saint for an additional 50 health as well. So if he was to use his drone and revive a teammate that way, but be in the middle of a fight, when that revive goes off, he's then able to get the healing effect from that and basically get a free life drain or a free kind of shack overhill. I do really like this pack. I think it suits obviously the medic playstyle really well, but I think generally it just allows Saint to do a lot more and allows the revives to kind of be worth it. It means you should let your Saint revive your teammates because they come back with additional health and they can get in the fight a lot quicker. Taking the number 2 spot is going to be Talon's passive called Mag Gloves. What this passive allows him to do is reclaim items from a range. This range is really long, so as long as you can see something and get the right kind of crosshair placement of where it is, you can reclaim it from a range. This works with weapons, it works with gadgets, and it also works with the bomb on attacking side, so it can be really, really, really useful and is such a good ability. It of course also works with his tracking dart and allows him to throw it out, see if there's enemies there, reclaim it, and then use it somewhere else. This not only suits his own playstyle and allows him to be a lot more adaptable and versatile, it is just generally a really good mechanic if you are in a pinch and you can't reload your weapon because someone's coming, but there's a down teammate or enemy nearby, you can just drag their gun and then have it. Also works with gadgets. I find that's really useful to then just grab a grenade and throw it and then change position. There's just a lot of uses for it, a lot of adaptability that you can do. I know I was doing sort of like a melee only challenge and I would throw my sword and then I would reclaim it back and I would just have my sword. I think, again, that's just really, really a good mechanic and that's why it takes the number 2 spot. Coming up as what I think is the best passive is Lancers, which is Elusive. This allows her when dodge rolling to fully reload her currently equipped weapon. So if you're wondering why a Lancer feels like she never stops shooting, it's because every time she's rolled, she's actually reloaded her weapon. When she comes out of the roll, the weapon has a full magazine again. Good Lancers are able to use this so effectively. I don't see a good Lancer pressing their X button or their reload button ever. They just roll because it's so much quicker and allows them in a fight to not only be evasive in the raw mechanic, but once they've shredded through a few bullets, they can reload it again and have a full magazine ready for the go. It suits a really fast-paced style well, and it's just generally really, really strong. This really just enables Lancer to do everything she needs to do to 1v1 and frag out really well in solos and casuals, and it's just a fantastic mechanic. Okay then guys, that's going to take us to the end of the video. If you did enjoy, you did learn something, make sure you leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more content. I also want to know what your favourite passive is, or at least who your favourite rogue is within the game, so leave that in the comments section down below. Bonus points for anyone who picks my favourite rogue. If you want to see more gameplays and things from me, then come check out my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Radthar Gaming, or come join my Discord, which is linked down below. Other than that guys, I hope you have a fantastic day, and remember, be loyal, be brave, be relentless, and I'll see you in the next video.